Ladies and gentlemen, it's 6 o'clock, and I'd like to call the August 20th, 2020 meeting of the Columbia County Planning and Zoning Commission to order. If you'd stand with us, Commissioner Wilder will lead us in the invocation. Commissioner Futch will lead us in the pledge.
How about with us? Lord, we thank you for another beautiful day. We thank you for all the rain we've gotten. Nice for a bit. And we thank you for all this time together, the blessings you bestow upon us here in this community. We ask that you look over us this evening, guide us, interpret these issues, come to the best decision. Facts we're given. All these things in Jesus' name.
Flag. United States of America.
Republic for which
One nation, under God. Thank you. If I could remind you to please silence your cell phones, and if you do need to take a phone call, I'd ask you to please take it out front. We do have 4 or 5 commissioners present this evening for an 80% quorum. Commissioner Henderson had to be out of town on some personal matters. Gentlemen, you've had a chance to review the minutes of the August 6th meeting. If there are no additions or amendments, I'd like a motion for approval.
So move.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor? Motion to approve the minutes as submitted passes 4-0. Gentlemen, we've also had an opportunity to peruse the agenda for this evening. If there are no additional items, we need a motion for approval of the agenda as it's been submitted.
So move.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor? Motion to approve the agenda passes 4-0. Before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to clarify that the Planning Commission is a recommending body to the Columbia County Board of Commissioners. The decisions made on rezoning and variance requests tonight will be forwarded to the Commissioners for final action on September 1st, 2020 at 6 p.m. in this same building. If you wish to address the Board of Commissioners at their meeting, please see Ms. Kara Harden, and she will give you a request to speak form. We're less formal in these chambers. We don't have a formal request. If you have some information you'd like to add, please raise your hand. We'll ask you to come up to the microphone. Identify yourself by your name and home address, and we'll give you 3 to 5 minutes to give your position for or against. We also have a period at the very end of the meeting for public input. So if you have something that you'd like to speak about that's not on the agenda for tonight, we'd invite you to come up the same way and give us your feelings on whatever the issue is. That being said, we'll dive right into new business tonight. Mr. Butler, a driveway plan for the Upland Farms?
That's correct. So this is a driveway plan. I don't know if you've ever seen one of these. This is kind of a new request for Upland Farms over off of White Oak Road. Involves some property on both White Oak and Ray Owens and Upland Trail. Currently, it's split zone RA and R1. And the request here is to allow for driveway access off of an easement. This is the location of the properties in question, again, off of White Oak Road and Ray Owens Road. And the zoning, again, it is split zone. You do have kind of this piece here that's R1, and the rest of it is RA. And aerial view of the site, again, currently there's no development on any of these lots. It shows a plat that was approved back in October 2019. Lot 6, 7, and 10 all had access coming off of Ray Owens Road or White Oak Road at that time, as well as the rest of the lots 1 through 5 there. So the request is to allow for driveways to come off of the access easement here, Upland Trail, for those 3 lots. Now, this would probably happen over time anyway, because folks would say, well, I have access to this road over here, so I'm just going to put a driveway in all of a sudden. We wouldn't really be tracking that in any way. The applicant had a question of could they do that, and we said, yeah, that's feasible, but it is a violation, or technically a violation of the 4 lots off of an easement. With this request, you'd have these 3 here, and then these 3 as well, so you'd technically have 6 lots off of 1 easement. However, in terms of safety issues, you're taking access off of these the collector and arterial roads instead, and that kind of makes it so that less curb cuts is less points of conflict, so it can make the roads safer to do that. Overall, staff is recommending approval with several conditions. Most of these are basically to clarify that they cannot access Ray Owens or White Oak, depending on which lot it is. So you do have traffic engineering with the condition that, again, they can't access those roads. Lots 11, 12, and 13 cannot be subdivided further. And then also with the deeds for those 3 lots, they need to have shown that no access is permitted to White Oak Road and Ray Owens Road within the deed. That includes staff recommendation.
Gentlemen, any questions of staff? This is not a public hearing, so I'll need a motion to approve, deny, or to table.
Chairman, I make a motion to approve the driveway plan with conditions.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Motion to approve carries 4-0. Ms. Bolte, conceptual plan for Champions Overlook 2.
Yes, sir. This is a concept plan for Champions Overlook 2 off Riverwood Parkway. This is 5 acres. This is currently part of the Riverwood Planned Unit Development. This is the location back behind the gate in Riverwood. And an aerial of the site. Of course, it is undeveloped at the moment. And the plan includes 6 lots, 4 of which are single-family residential lots. Similar to what we saw with the first phase of Champions Overlook, these will have a 50-foot buffer along the parkway and 50-foot front and rear setbacks. The lots are on the larger side, ranging from 0.6 acres up to just over 1.5 acres. And there are 2 open space lots included with this concept plan. Staff is recommending approval.
Gentlemen, any questions of staff? It is not a public hearing, so we need a motion to approve, deny, or to table.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the conceptual plan for Champions Overlook 2 off Riverwood Parkway.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor? To approve carries 4-0. All right, Ms. Bolte, if you'll continue with preliminary plat for Southwind Village Phase 3.
Yes, sir. This is the preliminary plat for Phase 3 of Southwind Village off Hereford Farm Road. This section is R2 RCO, that's single-family residential with the residential cluster overlay. There are 105 lots in this section. This is the location, just off Hereford Farm. This is the initial phases of Southwind Village to the north of the site. And this is the preliminary plat, again, 105 lots on this property. Minimum lot size is 7,357 square feet with an average lot size of 9,952 square feet. This does meet the requirements for the RCO. Again, that cluster overlay allows a little bit different lot size than a typical R2. Setbacks are a minimum of 40 feet from the center line and 5 feet from the side and rear property lines. This section of the development will have sidewalks on one side of the road, which will connect to the amenity area which was provided in Phase 1 of Southwind Village. There are 10.86 acres of open space in this section. And there are multiple retaining walls that are awaiting permitting. Those will have to be complete before this plat gets released from plan review. Staff is recommending approval.
Gentlemen, any questions of staff? Can you go back to the map and show us where the retaining walls are going to be? Any ideas?
Maybe. So there's one here. There is, you can kind of see them, but not super well. Hang on one second.
One here, I believe.
Yeah, help me out here. That's the one they stepped, so there's actually 2 there. And then there's a couple on lots, so there's one there.
One there, I think.
There are about 9 of them total.
Okay.
One on the back of this lot. That one already. I'm obviously still missing a couple, but there are 9 walls all told, including the 2 stepped walls in that corner.
What direction are the walls? Is the development on the high side or the low side of the walls?
Generally, I think it's on the high side.
Okay. I just wanna
At
make
least
sure
on-
we're not creating a pond
or-
effect with a bunch of retaining walls and lots and that kind of thing.
I'm sorry.
I just want to make sure we're not creating a pond effect where we're putting retaining walls up and we've got lots lower than the walls and higher ground around it.
Not that I'm aware of.
All right. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. All in favor? I guess we got to have a motion first. Sorry, getting ahead of myself here. I'm excited to hand the meeting over to you later.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the preliminary plat for Southwind Village Phase 3 off Hereford Farm Road.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Motion to approve carries 4-0. Ms. Bolte, we're still with you. Final plat for Robert Wilson.
Yes, sir, this is a final plat for just 3 lots off Nob Hill Farm Road. This would not ordinarily, obviously, come through for just 3 lots, but they did extend public utilities to these, which required the full major plat review. So this is the piece located at the intersection of William Few Parkway and Nob Hill Farm Road. Has been subdivided into 3 lots and the public sewer service extended to them. The minimum lot size is 36,542 square feet. That's allowed since they did extend sewer. Minimum setbacks are 125 feet from the center line of William Few and 80 feet from the center line of Nob Hill Farm Road. Minimum side setbacks are 10 feet. This property does have zoning conditions on it that does prohibit access to William Few Parkway, so the lots will have driveways only from Nob Hill Farm Road, and staff is recommending approval.
This is the 5th or the 6th time we've seen this little piece of come in front of us.
Well, it would have come through for zoning, for concept, for preliminary, and now for final.
But we've seen it a
Should be
couple
the
times
4th.
before that, where,
Shared driveway?
yeah, there was a shared driveway.
That's further down.
That's a different property.
They look very similar.
Did the landowner extend this sewer?
The developer did, yes, sir.
Developer, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? We need a motion to approve, deny, or to table.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion to approve the final plat. Robert Wilson.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor? Motion to approve carries 4-0. Danielle, we're still with you. Minor S1 on file RZ 200804.
Yes, sir, this is a request for a minor revision to the property at 1762 Lonergan Hulme Road. This property is already zoned S1 special for a concrete plant, that was approved in 2015. This is the location of the site at the intersection of Lonergan Hulme and Nature's Way. Again, currently zoned S1. The majority of the surrounding properties immediately adjacent are industrial, with the exception of the residential property immediately to the north. And this is the aerial of the site. Obviously, the concrete plant is in operation on this property. And the existing site, and this is roughly the corner that we'll see in a moment, that they would like to put the temporary construction office on. This is related to the DOT project at the intersection with Appling Harlem and the road work there. So this office is to support that project during construction. Once the project is complete, this trailer will come off. Since it's a temporary use, it is being processed as a minor revision. If they wanted to add an office permanently to the site, it would be a major. This is within the activity center out here, and staff is recommending approval.
Gentlemen, any questions of staff? Not a public hearing, so we need a motion to approve, deny, or to table.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve RZ 20-8-4.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Approved carries 4-0. Mr. Butler, file RZ 200802.
Thanks. This is a request for a major S1 revision at 222221 Indigo Hall Drive, 3 acres and 10.5 acres respectively. The revision is to eliminate lot lines for proposed cottages, increase height and density of independent living apartments. This is the location of the property. Again, north side of Furious Ferry Road off of Indigo Hall Drive. And again, currently zoned S1. The property was rezoned most recently in 2017 was a revision. I will kind of go over a little bit of that here in a moment. Properties are primarily R3 around it, absent of the C2 across the street on Furious Ferry Road. Here's a review of the site. Again, you have the back of the property has been developed for memory care, and the rest of it is, you have the road, of course, that's been developed, and then also the riding rink that's there, but everything else remains undeveloped. This shows the existing site as the entrance to the property, and then further down on the road, going back into the property itself. Here's a plat of the property. We're dealing with these 2 parcels here. And this is the overall plan for 2017. So one thing that did change, you can see the road going here, it no longer does that. It now goes this way. So a little different layout than what was presented. In terms of the uses, again, you have the assisted living at the back. The uses are the property we're talking about, the properties we're talking about this evening. This is senior living cottages and independent living back in 2017. So the request tonight, we'll kind of split this up into 2 pieces with the 2 properties. The first is with the cottages, the independent living cottages. Those were originally conceived. The original concept, was to have individual lots for each one of those cottages. This request just removes those lot lines. There's really no change beyond that. Still the same number of units. We actually have a concept plan now that shows how it will be laid out. The applicant always intended to have these for rent. It was never really intended to be, purchase of any of the cottages. Staff really has no issue with this request. Again, we're removing lot lines. It is nothing beyond that. So the next request, and one thing too, we do have photos of the actual, or photos of the proposed cottages. Materials are going to be very similar to what was already on the site with the memory care property at the back. In terms of the independent living, this is a concept plan for it. So you have 4 apartment buildings proposed kind of in the middle of the site. With the topography, you can kind of see it with the concept plan. It does, has quite a bit of a change going from here to here. Again, it is going down towards the creek. Pretty typical to have that type of change. So with this concept, they are increasing the height from 35 feet to approximately 65 feet from the grade for the buildings. This will allow them to have 3 stories kind of on the interior of the site and the 4th story on the back facing towards the creek side of the property. This has enabled them with some reconfiguration on the interior to gain 28 additional apartments for the development. So again, that's a small increase. It went from 180 to 208, and then we have an increase in the height itself. So this kind of explains how that would kind of work as you go across the site. You'd have the 3-story closer to the residential, then you'd have a half 3-story and a half 4-story on the back side of it. Again, the 3-4 splits would be towards the access road. They would not be towards any of the residential properties. In terms of that request, the overall increase in density is not really much of a concern from our standpoint. From about 28 units, it's about 13% increase there. The other thing too is that it is more dense than our typical apartment zoning, but it's less dense than some of the others that we have permitted. In terms of the height itself, that's more of a topography issue that's causing that. And it is using these topographies to your advantage instead of basically redesigning the whole site, having retaining walls and that sort of thing. So really no issues with either of those requests. However, there is a couple of conditions from our floodplain manager that does kind of deal with some things from the previous plan that haven't been taken care of yet. In terms of the future land use, this is within the Martinez neighborhoods. This is not specifically listed as being a permitted use in this area. It's essentially a retirement community, kind of throws all of that together. In terms of the residential side of it, this is, in our opinion, is allowed in this area, or does fit the intent of this, the neighborhood's character area. Again, the staff has recommended approval with conditions. We have the first 2 are from environmental. One of the things is the Indigo Hall is considered a critical facility. They have to abide by this section within the code. Not really going to get into that as well. And also, they do have approval from FEMA on their LOMAR, a letter of map provision, will be required prior to building permits or land and service permits being issued. Staff, our planning also has a condition that carries over from the previous rezoning. It's really there just kind of as belt and suspenders kind of condition. That includes staff recommendation.
Gentlemen, any questions to staff? Okay, this is a public hearing. Is the applicant here this evening? Yes, would you like to come forward and give us any additional information? Please give us your name and home address.
My name is Victor Apat. My home address is 537 St. Andrews Boulevard, Charleston, South Carolina, 29407. Everything that Will has mentioned is what we've discussed. Really aren't any different intentions. Simply trying to provide a continuation of the master plan that was submitted and approved. The one comment I'd make, if we could go back to the colored plan with the, there you go. The only thing that, and part of this, of course, is taking best advantage of the topography, but the one thing for us, since we're a senior living developer, what this does for us is gives us 14 more units on the ground floor, so our seniors don't have to walk up steps or go into an elevator. So that's what that actually gains us, and the main reason why we exercise. That's it for me. I mean, it's fairly straightforward in our request. I'm certainly glad to answer any questions.
Gentlemen, any questions? Has the fire chief signed off on the extra height?
Yeah, so as part of the review, no issues were brought up. I mean, again, we've allowed 100 feet, so actually more than that, but
Okay.
no issues with that.
Gentlemen, any questions?
So these buildings are gonna have elevators in them?
Yes, they are.
I was three-story.
Yeah,
I'm 59, and I don't like the idea of walking up that many stairs.
right there with you. I'm 61, so.
All right. Any other questions? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir, you got a question?
To you,
Okay.
or comment. I don't have any problem with the lot lines being changed, but I do have a problem with 28 additional units. And if I'm gonna make a motion, can I make one motion for both, or do I need to make two separate motions?
You can include, if you make a motion based on whatever discussion we have, you're able to include whatever you want in your motion, but since they were presented together, you'd need to include those in the same motion.
I'll make a motion.
We gotta finish. Do we have any other, this is a public hearing. Do we have anybody else who'd like to speak either for or against this particular project? No. Hang on just a minute, please. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, accept a motion, and then we'll have discussion.
Ready? I'll make a motion to eliminate the lot lines they're talking about. However, I want to make a motion to not agree with 28 additional units.
Okay, so the motion is to allow the 25 units to be combined onto one common plat
Right.
and to not approve the additional height and units of the apartment buildings, the senior living.
Is that with conditions or not?
Right.
Is it with conditions or?
With conditions or without conditions?
Yes, with conditions.
So do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. All right, any discussion? Okay, I think the gentleman wanted to make a comment. We'll go ahead and take that before we have a vote.
And I'll just make a comment. Our primary focus is the care of seniors. And again, our focus on the additional 28 units basically gets us 14 at each building. And what that allows for seniors, that we just mentioned, is easy access right out of parking into your units. And all we're doing is taking advantage of the natural topography to provide additional opportunities for our seniors to have easy access to their
You know, that seems like a good reason, but weren't you aware that you had the opportunity to do that in the beginning?
So again, like any development, you don't go through all of the design steps at the stage when the master plan is developed. You go through that next level of iteration at the time you're going to develop that site. And when I recognize the opportunity to provide the advantages to our seniors, it seemed to make perfect sense. It's what we do. And again, I think if you would ask anybody about our Thrive Augusta community, we are ranking #1 for care.
I just don't like the density.
Again,
I don't like the adding on after the fact.
but again, we're not trying to do it after the fact. We saw an opportunity to better serve the seniors of the Augusta.
Regardless, it's still after the fact.
Gentlemen, I don't want to have the banner back and forth
Yeah,
here.
of course. Yeah.
I'm done, as far as I'm concerned.
All right, sir, thank you.
Thank you very much.
The motion's been made and seconded. All in favor of the motion to approve eliminating lot lines, but to deny the additional density and height? Raise your right hand. Motion carries 4-0. With that being said, I have a conflict on the next issue, and I'm going to turn this portion of the public hearings over to Commissioner Wilder. You're on deck.
Okay, we've got on this one. That Miss Danielle, if you would get us started.
Yes, sir. This is a request for a rezoning of multiple parcels on Washington Road and Rose Lane. They total 4.28 acres and are currently zoned C2 General Commercial. This is the location of the properties on the south side of Washington Road and north side of Rose Lane. Again, currently zoned C2, as are all surrounding properties. This properties are currently in use for the sales and service of RVs. Code revisions in 2019 made that a non-conforming use in C2. What that means is that the business can continue to operate in this location. However, they are not able to expand, as in adding buildings or adding property, and they would not be able to rebuild if something were to happen to the site, if for example, there was a fire, tornado, anything like that that caused damage to the buildings, they would not be able to rebuild. These are a couple photos of the existing site and the site plan, and the reason for the rezoning request is this additional proposed structure on the west side of the property. That is a proposed pole barn to be used for servicing and customer demonstrations. As we just mentioned, they're not allowed to expand under their current non-conforming status, so they are requesting the rezoning to S1. That is use specific, so that does lock these properties in for RV sales and service only as an allowed use. So the question we're really dealing with tonight is how we want to treat non-conforming uses. If we want to consider rezoning and allow them to continue to expand, or if we want to hold them to the code standards and say they can continue to operate but not expand, and then in theory eventually relocate to more appropriate zoning districts as defined in our code. These properties are located in the Martinez Activity Center. This is a mixed-use activity center. This is intended to provide for a mix of shops, restaurants, offices, higher density residential uses, civic and open spaces. Development patterns in these areas are to be characterized by compact walkable development. Obviously, this will require kind of long-term planning and redevelopment in the Martinez area. Locking in these properties as this particular use that is very auto-centric, that is more suburban in nature, may not kind of help us make that progress. However, staff does understand this business has been in this location for quite some time, has expanded over the years, has obviously done well here. So while staff is recommending disapproval, we have also put together conditions in the event the commission is inclined to approve it. These would basically require upgrading the site in addition or in conjunction with the proposed expansion. That would include the landscape strips along Washington Road and Rose Street, and fencing to meet the CPOD requirements that are in effect on Washington Road. Building standards also has a condition. If you notice on the site plan, the proposed new pole barn does cross property lines. That is a violation of building code, so that building will have to be shifted or the property lines revised to keep that building all on one property. And that concludes the staff recommendation.
Gentlemen, any questions for staff?
Let me ask this question. When zoning happens, we send letters to all the current existing businesses of all these changes?
So the text amendment that made this business non-conforming is advertised. It is a public hearing. We do not send letters to every property that is zone C2, but it is part of a public process to go through that code change.
Okay. This is a public hearing. Is the applicant here? Come on up if you feel like you need to add anything to it or plead your case.
Good evening. My name is Philip Price. Home address is 111 Spring Lake Court, North Augusta, South Carolina. So all 6 parcels within basically the fence of what is CSRA Camperland are owned by the same family. Some are owned by my uncle and my parents, my mom. Been in existence there for 50, going on 53 years now. I have some photos here that show what it looked like when there was nothing but agriculture around us. It does show the Martinez Fire Department there, which is the little tab, if you look in the top left corner, where it does cross the property lines. Fire department used that just to roll the hoses out and drain them and dry them after they were used. That's why that little tail is on that piece of property where the fire department used to sit. The reason for the request to build this structure, we're looking for ways to better serve our customers. We've been here 52 years. We're built on customer service. We thrive on that. We want to make sure that the customer base that we have is local, stays local, and we keep our tax revenue here in Columbia County. What we want to use this for is when we sell a unit, deliver it to a customer, we spend 2 to 3 hours with them going through, showing them how everything on it works, teaching them how to use it so that they can use the investment that they just made. Like this will protect them from the sun, as intense it is in the summertime, and from the rain as well. Provide safety for some of the employees they'll be able to work underneath it, spend time with those customers as they prep the units. We just see this as not necessarily a physical expansion, because we're not adding this barn to help our business thrive and grow, to provide a better service for our customers. This is something we've wanted to do for quite some time. Unaware until we met with a contractor just to kind of to see how things would plan out. Cross over the property lines. It's a minimal crossover, just a few feet. I feel like this is the best use of this piece of property. This is already what we're using it for. Hover over it. I guess I kind of take offense to the staff suggesting that we find another location to be. We've been there 52, brought a lot of tax revenue to this county. That was kind of disheartening that was the location, along with and understand the code being that we have to have a setback off the fence. But what you're asking is for me to take down my fence and barrier, and I'm going to give up roughly 2/3 to 3/4 of an acre on the front and the rear of the property. We're at 4.28 acres total now. If we do that, that knocks me back to 3 acres. I can't house the inventory that I need to house, and I also won't be able to provide the service to the customers I need to, because I won't have enough service space to park units that we're. My plea is that this approval is overruled and we're allowed to better serve our customers.
Well, in defense of staff, I mean, they've got a code section, and they interpret projects that come to them based on the code. It's no animus there to try to grab some of your property. They're just following the rules given to them by the politicians, so there's that. Would there be any issue with moving this building a few feet? Is that doable without undue expense?
As far as moving the structure, where it's sitting at, if we're not gonna cross property lines, I've got to shrink the building. I can't shift it down to the south anymore, because that's where we have a propane filling station, and that's where our 500-gallon tank sits. So that's not feasible to move. So that's really, as far as the location and what we have availability for power and water usage, thing that we do for the units and to demonstrate them, that's the ideal location for us.
Could you move it and put it at an angle instead of it being directly on the property line up here at this point?
The
top left-hand corner from
Right.
what we're looking at. And move it like 30 degrees or whatever it would take to get it off that line.
That's certainly something can be entertained. The concern that I have there is because we do the traffic flow, move units, and we have units that are delivered, where we park them and how we position them on the lot, our sales lot, as well as our service traffic.
That's just a suggestion.
Sure.
Just a thought. Because I don't know, nor does anybody else here know what all you have going back and forth through there, or if that's even reasonable to talk about.
It's something that we can look at. There is that possibility. Maybe modifying that once we get down exactly where this building.
So the fire department, that little tail, that little sliver there where the building's currently proposed,
Right.
is there some sort of an easement agreement or some sort of agreement you've got with the fire department
Well,
as far as doing that, or?
Fire department no longer owns that business, that plat, or that parcel.
Right.
It was purchased, my uncle bought it, incorporated it as part of what's inside of
Okay.
the fence of Camperland. Look back, and I can show you this photo if you like, from way back in the 70s, where that tail it has the ramp, the concrete ramp, all the hoses out.
Okay, yeah, I
Or that
remember it
initial
now,
property.
let's see, yeah, I don't know, if you said fire hose, I was thinking the fire station was still there.
Oh, they moved it.
Okay, thanks. Is there anybody that would like to speak?
Could I come out of hiding and ask one question? Would you be able to purchase that little tail of property?
Most likely, if that's what was required. The other thing that I didn't mention, removal of the fence on the front side. If that's the condition that's required, not only would that cost me space, but we're looking at electrical, water, fiber, all sorts of movement has to take place. Asphalt, it would be a great expense for us to do that. Just across the front side, in addition to giving up.
Okay, thanks. This is a public hearing. Is anyone here to speak for or against? All right, I've seen that. I will close the public hearing and ask for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion on RZ 20-8-03 to be approved with some of the restrictions and some arrangements to be worked out between Mr. Price and staff within reason. I know that's a vague notion, but that's the only way I knew how to word it.
Is that motion going to work?
Yeah,
More specific.
Well, the reason I said it that way, some of the additions or restrictions were not completely spelled out as to what they would or would not be, so it's hard to pin him down or them down to those.
Yeah,
restrictions.
I think you're gonna need to be clear on which ones you don't think are specific enough.
But I think the whole thing's up in there as far as conversation, what can and cannot be done.
Well, what the requirements of the
We're making a
ordinance-
motion to move forward and try to work it out. Let me put it to you like that.
Yeah, and I understand what you're saying, and believe me, I think staff will work with the applicant to the extent that we can. I think what we're facing, though, is the specific
Property.
recommended conditions are ordinance requirements, or can be instituted in this instance. I think the one question or the one challenge we have is the building standards condition is not a planning and zoning. It's not a code of ordinances in terms of something that, we have come up with or, commission has approved. That's a building code issue. So that's something that's a little bit more of a challenge to perhaps overcome, purchasing the additional property might take that away, but that's not something that, we have in front of us. So I guess the question I have is going through the conditions that we've outlined in the staff report, do you want to include the landscape strip condition? Do you want to, remove that? I guess that would be clear for us as to what exactly instead of, we're generally going to try and work with them regardless.
I understand you're going to try to work with them. That's not what I was implying.
Yeah.
The biggest thing, it seems to me, looking at the picture, would be adjusting that building to a point somewhere it could be off the property line.
Sure.
That would be the biggest of all of them, I would think. Wouldn't you?
Yeah. Well, I think that's certainly one of the issues that needs to be resolved regardless of,
Right.
If they want to do that. The other issue is the planning condition of the landscape strips and the fencing requirements.
That's what he's talking about, having to move his
Correct.
fence back. That's not exactly what you wanted, right? You didn't want.
No, I don't think we need to make him spend a lot of money to move that front fence. If that's the question you're asking. I think there's a better way to do it. I don't know what the answer is, but it seems to me that with everybody talking and discussing it, there would be some way to avoid doing that.
Better to table this thing?
I don't know that it's necessary to table it. I think it's more of a question of clarification. So if I understand what you're asking, and I'm not trying to put words into your mouth, so please correct me if I'm misspeaking. You're making the motion to approve it with the condition that the future structures be located on one parcel or not cross the property line. You're not recommending that the landscape strips and the fencing along Washington Road meet the CPOD standards?
No, sir. I'm not.
Okay.
Because of the extra expense to the property owner.
Okay.
Craft the motion such that it describes that.
What I said.
Motion is
That would not be one of the,
to approve with the building standards condition, but not the planning condition for the CPOD, I take it?
or moving the fence on the front of the property because of the extra expense.
The landscape strip
Yes.
and the.
There's another way we could do it, I'm sure. I don't know what it is, but it's got to be.
I would
Make
suggest
the
the
motion to approve
chairman
it.
restate the motion.
So as I understand it, the motion is You move to approve S1, that the building structure parcel condition remain, yet the landscape strip and moving the fence condition not.
That's correct. My, how it gets complicated so quick.
We got that down? Okay. All right, I got a motion. I need a second.
Guess I'm the only one. Second.
All right, all in favor? Yeah. You're back now.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I know we dropped that on you all last minute. You did awesome. That's our last item for this evening. We have no text amendments. We have no legal matters. Do we have any staff comments?
We actually have some staff comments. Can we go back to 200804? Minor revision. There it is. So I actually made a mistake with this one. So there were conditions on this. Those conditions were the previous zoning condition limiting access from Loningenholm Road to passenger vehicle traffic remains in effect. The Elvis trailer must be removed within 30 days of completion of the GDOT project SR 221 and I-20. And the minor revision approval should not be construed to allow additional future businesses on the property without approval of a separate plan revision request. So we did not present this correctly to you.
Does the gentleman's motion still stand
With conditions?
with conditions?
Yes.
Second still stand?
Stands.
Okay, okay. All in favor of the revised conditions? Motion passes, the revised motion passes 4-0. Anything else, sir?
No, that was it.
All right. Do we have any public comments? Seeing none, I'll accept a motion for adjournment.
Mr. Chairman, I'm making a motion to adjourn.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Motion to adjourn passes at 6:42. Next meeting is September 3rd, 2020 at 6 p.m. in these chambers. Thanks for coming out. Who had 6:42? Did you really? Now, is it closest without going over?